Earlier in the week, we mentioned the Jaguars bringing in Greg Hardy for a workout. Now it appears he may have another suitor in his former division. Washington is down a defensive end with Junior Collette's season-ending injury. And according to our Ed Warder, the team has internally discussed several veteran options to replace him, including free agent Greg Hardy. Now, one of Hardy's former teammates with the Panthers is cornerback Josh Norman, whom sources say would endorse Washington signing Hardy based on his experience on the field and in the locker room with him. Ed Warder reporting that. Max, will we see Greg Hardy in the NFL week 1?
First, I want to say I see how we fonted their name. I don't think we should be doing that. I think that's an offensive term. I'm going to call them the team from Washington. Are we going to see him on the field week 1? Look. Fans of teams are primarily interested in the job that their players, that they root for, can do on the field. And if you can go get the quarterback, there are fans out there, maybe even the majority of fans of most teams, that want to see you on the field helping their team, going out and getting the quarterback, and this is something he can do. So on the one hand, you think there's a very good chance he plays week 1. However, domestic violence is the third rail of American life right now. And it's not even an issue of whether or not Hardy would have been convicted in a jury trial had it come to that. That's not even really the issue. The issue is when teams meet with him, having the stink of the charge on him still, having other incidents where he said things that were found to be obviously distasteful publicly about Tom Brady, about Gisele Bündchen, etc. Once that is attached to him, what teams want to know when it comes to this issue, the issue of domestic violence in particular, is does he get it? And if they feel he gets it, he'll be on the field week 1. But the fact that he hasn't been picked up already, the fact that he's going from team to team indicates to me, at least from a distance, that maybe he's not giving teams the sense that he gets it. And that makes me doubtful that he's going to be on the field week 1, Stephen A.
I'm very doubtful that he's going to be on the field for week 1, and I'm not sure that he deserves to be on the field for week 1. Let me be very, very clear. This is America. This is the land of second chances. If you're not a pedophile or a murderer or something like that, something as egregious as that, I think that this is the land of second chances. And ultimately, if you're going to impede someone's ability to be employed, then ultimately they can become your problems. I know that isn't applicable to somebody who's collected millions in his career already, but I'm just speaking from a generalist perspective. When people are not incarcerated, but they're unemployed, they end up being society's problem, whether we like it or not. And that's something that I think we all need to guard against. That's just my belief. My second point that I wanted to make was to piggyback off of your first point. I apologize for those. I'm very, very sensitive to the Native American community, obviously. The name of the team is very, very offensive. My problem with it, and the reason why I don't mind calling them the Redskins, is because it's been divided. Some people speak, and they say it's not offensive from the Native American community, and others have said it is.
But Stephen A., I'm not worried about the ones who aren't offended by it. I'm worried about those who are offended by it. They're not offended by it, okay, fine, but there are those who are.
Well, that's why I agree with you in terms of your position, and myself included. I would try not to say it, but if
I'm going to bring you around. I'm bringing you around.
Yeah, you're bringing me around to that. Fair enough. Let me say that. Let me also say this about Greg Hardy. Getting back to Greg Hardy, there are several teams that could use him. I think the Redskins. I'm sorry, the Washington team from Washington.
Right.
I think they're right.
Little by little, brother, we'll make progress.
I think well, it's rare because it won't happen with you most often. I can assure you of that. But I will tell you this: this team needs somebody like him in terms of a nastiness, particularly highly motivated to go against teams within that conference, specifically the Dallas Cowboys. That's one. The Atlanta Falcons probably need him more because they only had 19 sacks all of last season, and their leading sacker was Vic Beasley, and he only had 4. Drake Hardy had 6, albeit in just 12 games, even though he didn't show up for the last few games. But there are several teams that need him. In the end, what it comes down to is this. Is it being held against him, his plight, him committing domestic violence, no matter how much he tries to deny it? Yes, it is. Is it apropos that it's being held against him? You're damn right it is. Because unlike Ray Rice, Greg Hardy showed no willingness to be contrite in any way at any time. That is the difference, okay? Ray Rice isn't getting an opportunity by and large because people believe he can't really play anymore, that he was dwindling, he's 32 now, blah, blah, blah. In the case of Greg Hardy, that's not what's holding him back. What's holding him back is that there were practice habits. There were questions about his work ethic. You had members of the Dallas Cowboys calling him a jerk and how he's somebody you wouldn't want in your locker room. This is after he was given the chance by the Cowboys. So it's one thing to have this reputation before the domestic violence incident. It's another thing entirely to go through a domestic violence ordeal, be convicted by a judge via a bench trial in North Carolina before you appealed it, still get given a second chance, then go on a team that gave you the second chance and have these people saying this about you in the aftermath of all of that. And then the only time we saw you try to display any level of contrition is when you sat down with Adam Schefter, and then you were denying something that the evidence said was just flagrantly, just exposed you as a flagrant liar in terms of the things that you were being accused of. For you to sit up there and to say, I never touched this person with the bruises and the evidence that was documented in court. You never, he didn't sit up there and say, no, I pushed it, but I didn't hit it. Not that that would be excused at all. Please don't get me wrong. I'm not excusing anything. I'm saying to sit up there and to say that you never even touched her. I'm saying if you said something else that involved you touching her, you would have plausible deniability at that point. But for considering the evidence that was mounted against him, to sit up there and say you never even touched her. What she did, she hit herself? She put them bruises on herself?
Stephen A., when you said that, I heard Molly say thank you. As the only woman on this show, how do you feel about all this?
Here's my thing, and you brought up the great point. Pretend, and I know they're not, Greg Hardy and Ray Rice are equal in terms of talent level and age and all those sorts of things.
Pretend, yes.
Yes, right? Pretend. Exactly how Ray Rice handled everything in terms of the protocols and how proactive he's now become is what you want to see. And again, land of second chances. Then I would say, is it egregious what he did? Is it okay? No. But he's doing everything right. He's trying to get his life back on track. And what we saw from Greg Hardy was the exact opposite. When I saw those interviews, when there were interviews in the Dallas locker room, Stephen A., he was in denial. He wasn't aware. There was no remorse. I mean, this man threw a woman on a futon with rifles, assault rifles.
And swears he never touched him. Swears
that is so
up and down
scary
he never
to me, to be completely in denial with that evidence against him. I do not want to see Greg Hardy on the football field. You guys, I might be a bigger NFL fan than both of you. I'm an NFL junkie. But just because how he handled himself in the aftermath, that is why I do not want to see it. He had enough chances. Ray Rice, I'm good with.
Well, here's what it comes down to. In the end, Ray Rice gives you the impression that, oh, my God, what a colossal error in judgment, what an egregious mistake I've made. This has ruined my life. I will never, ever do this again. Greg Hardy comes across as, look, man, I'm just trying to get another job.
Well, I mean, the difference is, as you mentioned, there's a video of Ray Rice committing in the commission of a serious crime. Absent that kind of evidence in the Hardy case.
But we have the photos. The photos did surface, and unfortunately, it wasn't until then that we saw the public outcry.
Sure. But, I mean, even if you don't assume guilt, because there's a presumption of innocence, and yes, he was convicted, but then witness went away, and there was no jury trial at all. Even if you assume that, to me, it's not even about whether or not he would have been convicted in a jury trial. It's that once this issue is around him in this way, and there are so many people who feel that the evidence is incontrovertible and he obviously did it, then for him to kind of take the public posture he's taken, who knows what the private posture is, but the public posture is so insensitive that I think that teams are saying, this guy still doesn't get it. And that's why, I mean, a guy...
That was your earliest point, that
with
you
his
have
talent,
to get it.
With his talent, you'd think someone would have picked him up by now.
Well, I think that y'all are coming just a touch short when you're just saying it's insensitive. I'll go a step further. His behavior gave you every reason to believe that it could happen again. I'm talking about his behavior in terms of in the aftermath of it all. Right. When he was talked to, the way he was conducting himself on the football field, off the football field, the way he was. You just got the impression that he lives in his own world, and he doesn't believe that he should have to be accountable. That's the impression that you get. based on his action.
And Stephen A., let me add one more piece on Nicole Holder, the victim. When people say the term paid off, it really irks me because it makes it seem like this woman, all she wants is the money. How about she might not have wanted to go into the courtroom and relive this? How about she might have been scared for her life? So that's why she was handled this in a certain manner.
You're absolutely right. But again, here's the deal with Nicole Holder. She gave sworn testimony. She did. They're acting like, oh, she just disappeared. No, she gave the sworn testimony. She went through the ordeal of having to provide this testimony in a court of law. And then he got convicted and still found a way to get out of it. And she didn't want to go through it again.
And by the way, Molly, you saying thank you, for how long now have women in the context of these discussions felt like, can someone say something that I can say thank you about? Or better yet, can I say something about this? I can only imagine what it feels like from your point of view.
Of course.
After that ordeal at Stanford, where that kid got off after what he did to that woman, two witnesses literally jumped on the kid and stopped him and held him there until the authorities arrived. After he was assaulting a woman and he got off with 6 months when he could have got 10 to 14 years in jail because the judge was an alumni member of Stanford. I mean, you got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me.
That's something, right? Unbelievable. All right, guys, thank you for having that conversation. Appreciate it.